All right, hello everybody. My name is Jennifer McNeely and I am recording this video for EDU 580 for Georgetown College. It's Linguistics Theory and Analysis. And I have with me Mrs. G. Mrs. G, can you tell us a little bit, how long have you been teaching?
I'm in my 23rd year of teaching.
Okay. And you do work with some ELLs, right?
I do work with some. Yes.
Okay. How do you usually identify ELLs?
Well, sometimes their body language gives it away. They tend to be very reserved. They don't want to communicate because they can't.
Right.
That often gives it away. Of course, the fact that they cannot communicate, I'll try and have conversation with them, and they immediately just kind of nod their head.
Like I'm doing right now. Exactly.
That usually gives it away if I haven't already been told ahead of time.
Okay.
So.
All right. So Connie is what we're going to call the little girl that's in your class, the second grade classroom. Mm-hmm. So we're going to concentrate specifically on the ELA part of it, the English language arts part of it. So do you know much about Swahili?
No.
No. Okay. Not usually your area.
Not a real common thing.
Okay. Well, Connie is a 7-year-old female, and she comes from the Congo, not the Democratic Republic of Congo, but she comes from the Congo. And she and her family moved here, most of her family, her mother, twin brother, baby sister, older sister, moved here from the Congo. Dad and an older sister stayed in the Congo. And mom somehow suffered a horrible injury and fell out of the truck on which they were fleeing the country, and was severely injured, and as a result had to have both of her legs amputated. So she's in a wheelchair and unemployed, so Connie and her family are in a low socioeconomic area, relying on refugee and government assistance for that. So Connie speaks Swahili at home. And Swahili is what's called a Bantu or African language. And so originally there was influence in it. And Swahili was a language that was a secondary language for most of the eastern coastal regions of Africa. So they all had kind of their own dialects, their own languages. And then with the influx of trade routes from Persia and Arabia and things like that, the Persian language, the Arabic language became part of an influence. So there's quite a bit of parallelism between the Arabic language and Swahili. And originally it was written in an Arabic script, but the Christian missionaries in the 19th and 20th centuries brought through the Latin alphabet. So actually the way that they write now looks just like what we write, except for lots and lots of consonants. So there's lots of consonant combinations that we don't have in English, like the mt sound or mp sound, which seems strange for us because they come from different parts of the mouth. So Connie's young enough, I think, that her affective filter, that I'm going to be nervous, I'm going to be shy about what is, she's willing to go out there and give it a try. Her affective filter is lowered, so I think you're probably seeing, you've told me she's a very sociable person.
Yes. Yes.
So she, the vowels, the consonant parts, there's some combination, like they don't have a Q or an X in their language. The CH does make a ch sound, or the C by itself makes a ch sound. So those are some things that she's probably shown some issues in knowing how to say them. Her speaking is pretty good, and I wanted to touch really quickly on the WIDA performance definitions. So right now she is in the beginning to developing stage. So she's got general language. She uses short sentences, phrases, she understands them. She, pictures are always good for her. She can get that pretty easily. So her conversational language, as you told me, is very high.
Yes, that's correct.
She can talk to her friends.
Yes.
She can, have a casual conversation. And then so in the levels that she's doing really well in that casual conversation. It's the academic stuff.
Right. And in the academic conversation, very broken sentences.
Right.
Like you know what she's saying most of the time. But the sentences are very simple, not always complete, very broken.
And the same goes with you trying to explain things to her as well.
I have to break those sentences down, because if I say to her, hey, Connie, I need for you to, and I use every word that I would use in a conversation with you, it's overload. It's information overload for her.
And she never went to school before she came to the United States. She's been here for about a year. So she never went to school before. So she doesn't have that cognitive academic language. She doesn't know any of that stuff yet.
Yeah. And we play a lot of charades.
Exactly.
That's what we do.
But hey, it works.
It works.
So I did give you a copy of the can-do descriptors, and that those are just the things that they can do. She can do at this stage. So she can sort pictures. She can follow really two-step oral descriptions. With her listening part, with the reading, she can locate some stuff. She can make some lists, but images are really good things for her to use right now. So I have a copy of that for you. And she doesn't speak Spanish, but I do have a copy in Spanish for you, because I know you have some Spanish kids too.
Thank you.
And then there's also this grades 1 through 2 example topics and genres. And so these are just different kinds of things. If you're like, what could I do in this activity? What's something that I could pick? This is specific to grades 1 through 2. Awesome. It does have math, science, social studies. Okay. It does have social and instructional language too, which is really cool right there. So that's a copy for you.
Great.
And then I also have the speaking and writing, grades K through 12, the performance definitions. So level 1, entering, just, really like you said, coming in.
Yeah, nodding your head.
Sure.
Yes, right.
All the way up to level 5, which is bridging. And level 5 is pretty much the highest that kids will usually get in school. Level 6 is pretty high. They have to have been doing that for a really long time, so it's not even on this list. But there's speaking and writing here, and there's listening and reading. Great. So those are just some of those things for you.
Thank you.
And then let's get into a little bit more about Connie and her language. The vowels, like I said, the consonants are pretty similar. The vowels can cause her some trouble with her speaking. She'll see the letter I, and she'll make it make an E sound, which is what it does in Swahili, and not in, the E makes an S sound, like in bed, which is good. But the A can make an sound, like in hut or butt. And so for her, sometimes we see that where she'll say, I'm wearing my hut. Yeah. Why are you wearing your hut? Is that a butt flying? Why is the butt flying? It's a bat that's flying. So sometimes I know you've seen that can cause some problems with her. So some of the suggestions that I had were for her really to work on her writing. The speaking is pretty good. That's not my biggest concern. I know it's not yours.
The writing is where we need a lot of work.
Yeah, her writing is really pretty low. It's on that really one, be entering level, starting to get into the 2, the developing. Her her understanding of what she's writing looked like it was okay.
She knows what she's trying to put on paper.
Right.
But she cannot put that on paper very well.
No.
With any punctuation or, capitalization.
Right.
It's all like one huge run-on.
The syntax left a lot to be desired. So if you can kind of see, that's a copy of her writing sample here. And she definitely had a lot of phonetic spelling. Yeah. I in first grade, I'm assuming that there was some phonics instruction. It looked to me like she was definitely sounding out, trying to look for word recognition, but not always making sense, not getting the right word in the right spot.
And as I read her work, I have to really think? Like, what do I think she's saying? When I read her work, I have to really, it takes a little extra time, which is okay, but I have to think through it and phonetically sound out what I think it's saying, too, because it's all phonetically written.
Exactly.
Completely phonetically written.
Put yourself in the mind of a,
a
7-year-old ELL and trying to figure that out. So we play lots of roles sometimes. Well, one of the things is, there's a couple of different views about kids learning how to read and write. And one is the word recognition view, and that's that if a kid knows a word, then they'll be able to read it, and if a kid knows a word, they'll be able to write it, and then they'll know what it is, which you've probably seen doesn't always work. Just because, just because a kid knows a vocabulary word doesn't mean they know how to use it correctly.
That's
right? So that doesn't mean that the word recognition view, there isn't a good thing to do with recognizing words, because some of those the and of, because those are words that they should be able to learn pretty quickly. But it's hard to say, socio-psycholinguistic view takes a path that if kids are read to, and they are read to while they see the words in print, they will have a spillover. So the direct spillover is that immediately they can see it and hear it. They're able to kind of copy the format of it, right? After they do that a lot, the cool thing is they have something called delayed spillover, where writing much later will reflect correct punctuation, correct spelling, that you didn't cover right then in that particular lesson, but they remembered
because I've seen it
from before.
Right.
So you have kids.
Sure.
So you remember reading to them.
Very often.
And it came to a point where your kids could basically tell you the story.
Oh, yes.
Right?
They didn't have to really read it.
Right. So I experienced the same thing, and what I would notice is, and my friends have told me this before, that reading the same book over and over and over again, and I'm bored out of my mind, but the kids know it so well, and then after a while, they'll see something somewhere, and they'll go, Mom, that's like in the book. That's there's a question mark there. They asked a question. There's a question mark. And that's what we hope for.
Sure.
So the kind of view of thinking is that if kids read, they'll become better readers, and in turn, better writers. So that's one thing that I'm definitely going to suggest to you, and I'll give you some specifics.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean direct grammar or direct spelling instruction can't be helpful.
Right.
We just need to make sure that it's on the second grade level, right? So this is a suggestion that I had, this daily practice worksheet right here. So this does go through the very specific daily things like nouns. Okay, well, what is a noun? We've talked about it's person, place, thing. We're going to circle it. So this is more your direct instruction. And I have this one, but this is from a website called Teachers Pay Teachers. And so if you've ever gone on that before, they have lots of different kinds of practice.
Yes.
So I'm sure you've seen those types of things, but that's a copy for you if you don't have that one.
Okay.
And another one is, this one's so cute. I think anytime you put in little flowery stuff. I teach high school, so I can't do all this stuff with my kids, but the stop and smell the spelling. So what's kind of cool about this is that it is two-sided, and it is where they write the new word, and they write it 3 times, so they're practicing their spelling. So they're seeing it, and they're writing it, right? Then they draw it. They're going to draw a picture of what that means to them. What do they see? What's that image that comes to their mind? And then use it in a sentence. So hopefully write a sentence that uses the word. And we've seen our own kids do that. I'm sure you see it all the time where the kids look up in a dictionary and then they just kind of do it. So hopefully that kind of avoids it, where they see a picture, they have a visual in their mind, and then maybe they're able to create a more interesting sentence, a more in-depth, more advanced sentence that way. So this could be for a specific unit that you could have. You can add, several different pages. They can make their own word bank. Absolutely. In this case. So that's that for you. So that's kind of that direct instruction. Another thing that I have is an idea that I came across, which is spaghetti spelling. And spaghetti spelling, I don't know how you feel about this, but you can make a whole bunch of spaghetti noodles, and you could put them in different sizes, put them in a little bag, and each child has their own bag. And then they practice spelling the words with the noodles.
Oh, fun.
So, you would maybe give them, orally give them some spelling words. And of course, it has to be the stuff in context that you've been working on, they've been seeing, they're reading, or, the textbook or whatever for your particular lesson. And okay, we're going to spell,
that's great.
Flower or
really
whatever.
Hands-on.
Right. So obviously, as you're giving them the words, you monitor that they're spelling correctly and monitor they're not eating the spaghetti.
Well, that's second grade after all.
Exactly.
No promises.
The high schoolers might eat the spaghetti. If it's free
know.
Food, you never know. Another idea that I came across is spelling hopscotch. So, the hopscotch board usually has numbers on it. So maybe on, we have the, 6x6 tiles. Maybe you have those, or the 12x12s. So you make in your hallway, maybe outside of your room or within your classroom if you have a space, create a hopscotch board of letters.
Yeah.
So the letters then could be, the Wheel of Fortune stuff where you have the typical letters that they always use, the letter E and the letter A, all your vowels, and then you've got your others. And then again, they're practicing the spelling based on stuff from your unit.
Right.
And then they have to, you draw a word.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Right. So you draw the word and say, it's, I'm trying to think of a word, shark. And then they go out and they hopscotch and do it. If possible, if you had a couple of them, and then maybe you have a master kid in the class, an expert, who could, maybe that could be their job. So you're doing one hour, and then somebody's doing another. So, and then they're up and they're moving.
Yeah.
And,
keeps them engaged.
Yeah. There's the phonics dance. I don't know if you've ever seen that. The phonics dance where the kids learn all the different sounds, the consonant combination sounds,
that would be fun to watch.
SH is sh, 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 and then they dance and they move, and it's called hunks and chunks. So you were talking about chunking, right? You chunk things, so it's really cute. So those are things to get them moving. Those are those types of kinesthetic things that sometimes speak to some of those kids.
Absolutely.
And the fun thing is that all the kids can benefit from it.
Yes.
You're not isolating just Connie or another ELL. And you're not doing extra work for you. Work smarter, not harder. So then that way you're doing those types of things that get them up and get them moving, and everybody's having fun, hopefully. And, they're not just sitting writing the whole time, but they're learning, which is fun. So those are the kind of more fun things. I have some thinking maps, and thinking maps are graphic organizers. So there's you've seen the Venn diagram where you compare two things, and the comparison for thinking maps is called the double bubble. So the double bubble, you put in here what the things are, and I'm going opposite here. And then in the middle is what they have in common, and on the outside is what they have opposite from each other. And they can add as many bubbles as they want to it. You can add more bubbles to it. Some kids will limit themselves to, I'm only going to do 3 differences, The circle map is defined in context. So similar to the draw it that you had in that one handout, this is similar to it. So you put in what the word is in the middle, and then all of the images that she associates with that word, or she can write her own words. And then the outside frame is in context. So if she's defining what happiness is, but and she puts that here, but then the frame of context is maybe in a book that you're reading, it's that person's happiness. You know what I mean? So it's defining in context. So I've provided you with a copy of all of the different thinking maps, and this is a kind of instruction sheet. Yeah. So you use the double bubble for comparing and contrasting. You can use the tree map for classifying. Use the brace map for taking things from a whole thing down to parts. So these are all cause and effect, and analogies is one of the hardest, but
Yeah, that's hard.
At second grade, I don't know how many analogies you're doing. Not much, because I did terribly in high school on my SAT with analogies. Not good. Another thing is plickers, if you've seen plickers. And plickers is where each kid has their own QR code. It has a number and it has letters on it. So you can see the different shapes. And what you do is you create an account on plickers.com. And you go and create the question bank. You can add images to it. So if you don't want to use the words, you can add images, or you can, you can create whatever you want to it. And then each kid has their own. So it has a number to it, and then each shape has a letter. So then you have 4 choices, and you project it up on the screen, and then you take your phone, and with your phone, they hold up what their answer is. So if the answer is B, they hold this up. You take your phone and scan across, and it pops up who's got what right to you, not to them. You can change it on the screen where they can see who's got what right and who's got what wrong. I don't like that. I don't want that pressure.
Right.
But they can check and see that their name has been, that their answer has been.
Oh,
so their arm they don't have to lose all the blood from their arm and put down.
So how do they know which card that they have?
So they are assigned, so you have to make sure that, Connie, if she's number 3 in your class, she has number 3. And then each card has a different number. So this is number 38.
Here. Oh, I see. Okay.
So there's different shapes to them.
Yeah.
So each kid has their own card. Make it on card stock. So I made a copy for you. So you can do this 10-minute little bell ringer type of activity. Reading comprehension. This might be something about that. Who was a main character or something. And so then they hold this up and you record it. And then immediate feedback. You can talk about it. And you can say, well, why is this the right answer and this isn't?
Cool.
And what's great about it is it archives the information, and you can use it for your student growth goal for the TPDES. Yay! So I have that
That's
for
a
you
win-win.
too. It is a win-win. Absolutely. Anytime we can kill 2 birds with one stone. Absolutely. So, okay. So a couple, the one thing that I had left that I'm actually the most excited about, which I'm like, I want to do this in my class. It's called front loading. So front loading obviously is giving them as much information.
Right. Ahead of time.
Right. So let's go back to the academic language thing. The academic language, you give them a textbook. It's so dry and complicated, right? So front loading is we're still going to give you that information, but we're going to give you a whole bunch of information to help you figure that hard stuff out. So what I had in mind was, and I don't have the book, so I don't know if you do, but it was just the one that I came across, is a book called Who Eats What? And it is a book, a scientific book, basically, but it's written for 2nd and 3rd graders that is designed to help teach students about food chains and food webs. So what do kids think, what do they know about food chains and food webs? And if they hear the word chains, what might they think about? So you could start out with, what do you already know about food chains and food webs? Draw it for me. And they could draw it and just imagine there's got spider webs made up of spaghetti noodles or right? Or, they've got it's a spider web made up of different kinds of food. Or the food's caught in a web, or the chains, they think of a bike chain and it's made up of, bananas or something like that. So another thing you can do is you can bring in stuffed animals. And I know you have quite a few in your classroom.
We do, yeah.
Plus you have some at home with kids.
Both, yes.
So you could bring in stuffed animals of the ones that are in the book. So before you read the book, you can say, what do you guys know about the bear? And, the bear sleeps all winter. And what does the bear eat? Oh, the bear eats people, or whatever. Like, whoa. The bear eats honey. And, where did they get this from? Is Winnie the Pooh? That type of thing, So you can talk about that and maybe you have a shark or you have these different kinds of animals to get them, what do you already know about it? Let's think about it. I think something that would be really fun is Connie and other ELL students could share with the class the words for those animals.
Yes.
So they might be able to say, and I've looked at some of the Swahili words for animals. They have a lot of those consonants that are pretty difficult to say. So I will not attempt to say cheetah in Swahili. So maybe she can do that for you. But I think that would be fun. And then, that is helping the other kids too learn, there's different words, there's different cultures, there's different languages, So then it would be fabulous, and I don't know if this is possible, but it would be great if you were able to read the book while they have a copy of the book that they can read along. So you're modeling correct pronunciation.
There it is again, right.
And they're seeing it in action for hopefully that direct and then that delayed spillover that they're going to be able to see. So afterwards, then you can have them talk about, because it is an academic and scientific concept, then you can have them write about it and read about what they learned and read about what they know now. So so that was one I was most excited about, bringing in stuffed animals.
Well, they love stuffed animals. And they love, I mean, like they can touch them and they can feel them and they can pass them around. I mean, I guess to a certain extent, we don't want to throw them across the room, but I mean, to a certain degree, that, being able to touch and feel, that is a big deal to them. That
tactile.
Absolutely.
And moving around, that kinesthetic, all those different types of...
Better than just sitting.
Exactly. Which I know, the high schoolers don't like to sit still, so I know
oh my goodness,
second graders don't want to sit still, for sure. No. So I think that's it in the way of my recommendations. I do have a blog, so if you're interested in checking out the blog, I do have some videos about Swahili and some little phrases. I have some things about linguistics and some different activities, some theory stuff, but also some suggestions, some of those accommodations and things like that. So if you're interested, you can check it out.
Great.
But do you have any questions?
No, this is fabulous.
Okay.
Thank you for doing all my homework for me.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate it very much.
I don't teach second graders, so I hope that it works, but let me know.
Excited.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye.